majestic indescript weekday. I'm Richard, who decided it's a weekday.
And I am Karl. I don't really have any control over what day of the week it is, I guess.
With that attitude, you have to self-actualize and get a ridiculous superpower.
And the ability to control what day of the week it is? Would that even be time travel?
I think so, or it'd be like calendar manipulation or like mass hypnosis. Because, like, theoretically, I think it'd be easier to just brainwash everybody than to actually change where the Earth is in rotation to the sun. But
yeah, probably.
With that, welcome to Deep Space and Dragons, the hip new radio podcast where we talk about things. And disclaimer, we are not a valid source of information. Do not cite us on your essays.
Oh yeah, we're definitely not worthy of a bibliography. Don't give us an entry.
And if you do, don't use Chicago style. Like, if you must quote us, please use MLA like a standard human being. So, what's new in the world of Karl?
Oh, well, so, there's been quite a few series that, like, in Shonen Jump, kind of a revolving door.
Yes.
Some series are good, and like Dororon, that one was really good, and both of us were somewhat disappointed when it was canceled prematurely.
Like, the part of me that's a smug batard enjoyed how accurately I predicted the timeline, but the part of me that likes good things was sad.
Well, I mean, some of those things, the things on there aren't necessarily good. Like, I definitely saw the Shadow Eliminators. There was no way that was making it big, making it going all
but it did
distance.
Help my mathematical argument that 80% of new manga is just Bleach.
Mama Yu, it had a lot of charm right at the very start, but lost its charm in like the first 5 chapters, so not surprising that one got canceled. But an incredibly charming series that has actually become a long-running part of the Shonen Jump catalog is Spy Family.
Yes.
Or Spy X Family, if you decide to pronounce it wrong.
To be fair, when Japan had decided that using the English letter X was silent in their manga titles, I don't think the English language consented to this. Like, is it supposed to be a time symbol and it's like you're just multiplying the two things, which is why it's silent? Because I appreciate Spy Times Family.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly clear, but as a charming and enduring manga series, it got animated, and the animation was very top notch. Last year and whatever has come out this year has generally been quite good for animation quality. And I'm guessing, I don't know when anime becomes successful enough to propagate a movie.
When a group of investors say so.
Obviously, Spy Family has been successful enough that they made a movie. And I believe the movie came out in Japan in like December. And then must have done well enough in Japan and been enough of demand that they decided that Cineplex in North America, or Canada at the very least, I don't know about American movie theater companies, but
if it's in Canada, it's probably in America.
Just sometimes it's the same company with a different name, or sometimes Canadian companies just don't make it in the United States. But regardless, Cineplex has had a habit of playing anime movies. So like they played like the Dragon Ball Super Broly, they played Jujutsu Kaisen, they played the Demon Slayer movie, and the most recent movie that they decided that they would put on was the Spy Family Code White. And so I don't remember exactly what movie we were watching when it came up as a trailer. It wasn't even remotely anime related. I do recall that because it was like Ghostbusters or something like that. I'm not sure what movie it was, but they advertised the trailer, and it was about a month before the movie came out, it was playing in theaters anyways. And I was like, oh, nice. I should check to see like what time it's playing, because it was playing on a Saturday, so maybe I would have been able to go before work. and a month out from when it was actually playing, it was confirmed to be playing in 5 cities.
Okay.
Edmonton, Winnipeg, Ottawa, and 2 cities in Quebec. I don't remember what they were, and I don't really want to butcher the I feel like I do a pretty good French accent, but that's just because
You're from Saskatchewan. There's no possible way that's true.
There's no right. There's no possible way that I speak French sounding French.
Well, one of the joke is I actually know a lot of French immersion bilingual people in Ontario because they believe in that over here. So, I'll talk to friends oh, yeah, I just don't know that much conversational French. I only did it for 12 years. And I'm like, in Alberta and Saskatchewan, we just don't believe in it, right? It's like French immersion in Alberta? Yeah, right. You should be eating steak.
Anyways, I was very disappointed because it wasn't confirmed to be playing in Saskatoon, even though I know that they've played all of the aforementioned anime movies. But so I just kind of gave up on it. I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going on a road trip 6 hours to frickin' watch a movie.
I'd respect it
in theaters. Well, I mean, it would have been respectable, but for anime fans, anyways. But that is 12 hours of driving,
or just road trip fans, and the anime's unrelated.
Well, as it turns out, those 5 cities were just the ones that were confirmed a month out from actually playing. And actually, the Spy Family had 3 different showings. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I believe they had a showing. And so my girlfriend's like, hey, you really wanted to go see this? We should go see it together. And she's not really a big anime fan, but she is willing to go see whatever I want to see because I go and see whatever she wants to see.
That makes sense. That's what sense looks like.
Yeah. And so what's new with me? I was just a long-winded way of saying that I watched the new Spy Family movie. And aside from lingering a bit too long on some poop jokes, I thought it was pretty good.
And that kind of pivots perfectly into our topic of anime movies. But first up...
Well, it pivots perfectly into our topic of anime movies. And I decided not to tell you to go first with what's new with you, because I just felt like you asked me, so I felt like talking.
That's fair.
But what is new with you, Richard?
Not a whole lot. So I'm on a semester break between my 2 semesters. I have recently learned that I can technically get into law school if I write an exam in August with my degree. And then I learned I can get a master's in English and law somehow, which would take me as long as what I was already going to do with an extra year, but I get a law degree out of it. So I might, through procrastination, end up as a law practicing human being. So I've been doing practice tests for the exam and this, that, because the idea of it is amusing.
Well, okay, so I'm assuming that would mostly get into copyright law?
No, it's just law. So it'd be the major would be in English and law, and then I can subspecialize afterward into what I want to specialize into. But yeah, IP law and copyright law would be a good place to go. But technically, if I just write an exam to that, I could just go in a courtroom and practice law.
Well, that's... Oh, you could. That's for sure.
So I'm it started as a bit, and the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm wait. I could actually do this in theory. That's crazy.
Well, maybe you could become a vampire secretary or something like that.
That is the dream. I'm going to be perfectly clear. If we flip the roles just slightly in Midnight Secretary and I am the secretary / blood bank for the hot vampire, done. That is objectively my end game.
Is to be a blood bank for a vampire?
Well, no, to be the best secretary to win over the vampire, so I'm not just a blood bank.
Right. So you can be more to them than just an object.
Exactly. So yes, you are correct. That would exactly be my objective, and I would succeed, and it'd be amazing. But between that, because I'm between semesters, I'm mostly just submitting stories to journals, getting occasional rejection letters. It's a lot of literary journals don't want my story about someone using a goblin as a mace. It's weird. But eventually one will.
Well, eventually.
So, like, between that, like, just applying to things for the summer, preparing for my fall internship, I'm a very boring human being, and I'm fine with that.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm a very content, boring person.
You do tend to get, like, hyper-focused on things. So
yeah, it's like my medical condition is called attention deficit hyper disorder.
Yeah. I mean, there doesn't really... Sometimes it seems like there's not a deficit of attention, but...
That's because, like, the deficit goes in weird directions. It's like, I'm really good at one thing, I just don't get to pick what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Which is why I can, like, list all the triggers in Border, but don't know the cities in Ontario.
Right.
Raygust is the most durable trigger and has an expansion option of Booster. Where are you? I don't know. Brampton, I think?
You may or may not be in Brampton.
I have to look up my postal code literally every time I fill in a form, but could accurately break down all the chakra natures and combinations.
Well, yeah, but would you include Rainbow Chakra on there?
No. Not only is it non-canon, it's actually Ice Chakra, and it angers me. Because it's like, yeah, it got chakra from the Arctic around you. I'm like, shouldn't it just make a snowball? Why would it? There's nothing here. Like, rainbow's not a... It's like having something be like blue raspberry and regular raspberry, and you have both flavors. You're like, one of these is fictional.
Man, you got so mad that you almost used up her one F-bomb for the episode.
At Rainbow Chakra. I'm like, how dare you? For the record, still better than Boruto.
Well, that's another great segue into our topic about anime movies, because it's...
So I actually Googled, like, the highest grossing anime movies in the United States and Canada, just kind of, like, as a basis for this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen all of the highest grossing movies on this list, except for 3.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to start with, I'm curious, did you see Pokemon the first movie in theaters?
No.
Have you seen Pokemon the first movie?
That is the one where Ash dies and all the Pokemon cry to bring him back.
Spoilers! Spoilers! Unlike Boruto, where I have no problem spoiling it, Pokemon the first movie was surprisingly well written. And also had a Minnesota Vikings joke in it. Which just shouldn't work in any context. The more you think about it, the more immersion breaking the fact they made a Minnesota Vikings joke is.
That's probably a localized joke. They probably made a different sports reference in Japan.
I hope not. So the thing about that movie, so I was young enough to go see it that my mother was there and my brother, and my mom walked out because they had the Pokemon Pikachu's Vacation mini movie. And then like after the movie, we told her all about it. It's like, oh, I thought it was just the animal noises for like 2 hours, so I left. I'm like, no, there was an actual movie involving a psychotic clone. And imagine my mother being like, watching Pikachu's Vacation, be like, oh, this is just a stupid kids movie, and then learning it was actually about the ethics of eugenics.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly deep for a kids movie from the 90s.
So, quite frankly, it deserves a spot in number 1 here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's adjusted for inflation, which is really funny. I think it's just that much better.
Okay, so what's number 2 on the list?
Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train.
Yeah, I didn't actually go see that. I'm pretty sure it was subbed when it was played at Cineplex.
I actually prefer dub anime. Don't come at me, chat.
Well, see, I definitely prefer dub for the theater because it's a big immersive experience, and I don't want my immersion ruined by subtitles where I might miss something in the subtitles or I might miss something in the action because I'm too busy focusing on one or the other.
I agree, but I have some thoughts and I'm curious about them with you. So Demon Slayer the movie's only noteworthy to me because it did one weird thing I haven't seen an anime do. Mm-hmm. It just adapted a plot arc as a movie and then later turned it into episodes. Like Gundam Unicorn later turned it into episodes. But it was weird the idea you'd watch 2 seasons of Demon Slayer and the movie would be canon. Because anime movies are notoriously non-canon to the point where, like, if someone's like, hey, add these Dragon Ball Z movies into the timeline, you can't.
Right. Well, I mean, even Dragon Ball Super, the Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, I mean, they were made into a season, or they were based on the season, but they aren't exactly canon either because they don't exactly follow the main story. They're very close, but...
right? So, like, I'm curious your thoughts. Like, do you think that's a good idea to just grab a chunk of your story and movie it? Because on one hand, I kind of hate that. Because then it's like, okay, it leads to that problem with Gundam Seed where the movie versions were the superior way to watch it, but also are the harder to get your hands... Like, so this is going to date our age here a bit. So if our viewers were thinking we were like 17-year-olds or something, I firmly remember you buying the orange box Dragon Ball Z seasons on DVD and the marathon mode, which let us just watch the show in its like intended clean format.
Yeah, just cut out the opening, cut out the ending credits, cut out the last time and next time.
And one of my biggest rants about the Dragon Ball Super manga is it's incomplete because it expects you to have like watched things that aren't quite canon. So like,
well, I mean, the Broly movie, I guess technically is canon, but not like they just didn't want to draw it out, but then they're willing to draw out like frame for frame the freaking Heroes movie.
And that's why I found like the Demon Slayer movie an interesting idea, because adapting just an arc of an anime into a movie means you probably have a better written movie than the normal filler garbage we come up with. But also it means it's not really special, it's just a season of the show. Where, like, if we go back to Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, for example, where it's like, okay, we did a series and then ended it with a big dramatic canon movie. That's awesome.
Well, so JoJo's Bizarre Adventure also has, like, the first 2 seasons as movies. And I definitely agree with you that the movie version ends up being the superior way to watch the series because it's just so much more concise, but it still hits all the major points and shows all the major... set pieces in action.
It's ironic is it's the opposite of the live action adaptation problem, where it's like, yeah, we cut a bunch to make it. It's like, that doesn't work if it's still a 10 episode, hour-long episode miniseries, guys. So, the next one we have on the list is Pokemon the Movie 2000. I don't know if you've seen that one.
So, no, I mean, the only Pokemon movie I've actually watched was Pokemon the Movie.
So, just for some context, it did half as well as the first movie, which makes sense because it was half as good.
Fair.
Just straight up, it was like, the big point of the movie was to tease Lugia because Gold and Silver weren't out yet. And it was a perfectly functional movie. And the Pokemon movies were interesting at this point, because the first movie was canon, except everyone's mind got wiped at the end of it. So it was canon, It happened, but none of the characters remembered it happened.
Right.
The second movie didn't have a MacGuffin, so technically it happened, but Pokemon just also doesn't have strong enough canon and continuity to care.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure later they beat Lugia for the first time outside the movie because they just didn't care enough about the canon. So it really felt like that movie felt like your typical anime affair of we wrote an original movie that doesn't really fit into the plot, where all the characters yell at their special attacks. Where the first one, because it literally had the 150th and 151st Pokemon that weren't shown in any form of media, and it came out near the end of the first season, actually felt like a conclusion, almost like an Endless Waltz or a Char's counterattack. Where every Pokemon movie after that, because it became apparent the series was infinite, means nothing. So, perfectly timed, our next one on the list is the Dragon Ball Super Superhero movie, where they tried to see if they could trick the fan into watching CGI instead.
That's Demon Slayer makes sense, being that was number 2, right?
Yeah.
It was second. Then Pokemon obviously being first and third.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Super Superhero did better than Broly.
Really?
Yeah. So, I didn't see that one in theaters. I saw Broly in theaters. Dragon Ball Super Superhero, the main reason I didn't watch it is they spoiled all of it in trailers. Every single thing was spoiled. They're like, check out these new forms. And I'm like, well, why would I go watch it now? Look at Cell Return. I'm like, wasn't that a twist? Like, the marketing ruined the movie for me, which is funny.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a problem with trailers in general, where, especially for comedies, Well, movies that think they're comedies, because it's like at most a 3-minute trailer, and that's already kind of a long trailer. And then they manage to actually spoil every single joke that's actually funny in the movie.
Yeah, so like at this point too, I really think their movie was an experiment, just to straight up see if they could go forward with making Dragon Ball things in cheaper CGI, if they could actually get away with it. According to these numbers, they can.
Well, I mean, the Broly movie was also the same CGI style, because they're probably just literally reusing the Bandai Namco.
Well, the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie was about half that style and about half traditional animation.
Yeah, that's fair.
Alright, so right between the two Dragon Ball movies is the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie.
I didn't actually go see it. That one I find particularly strange, and actually somewhat infuriating. So, Jujutsu Kaisen Zero covers literally the first chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, because
the pilot wasn't what ended up being the first chapter.
Yeah, so the first chapter always ends up being a bit longer, and it's actually pretty easy to adapt the first chapter into a movie.
Oh yeah.
But when we talked about
sorcery fight,
what we were. Okay, it was just the most straight up about sorcery fight, right? Yeah. When we talked about it, it's like the placement of chapter 0 being at the beginning kind of set a different tone for the series as a whole. And then additionally, there's a fight between Gojo and Miguel that's in the movie, and Miguel uses up this black rope thing, and everyone's like, oh, he's so powerful, he can keep up with Gojo. But he burnt up his entire black rope, and without it, he's nowhere near as powerful as Gojo.
So, what's funny for Jujutsu Kaisen is they have their main series, and then at the start of season 3, too, they just flash back to Gojo's time as a student.
Yeah.
And then Zero doesn't take place before the series flashbacks. It just kind of takes place before the main show. So it's both required viewing and isn't. Because when we got into season 2, me and my brother were like, oh, wait, does this not make any sense because we didn't watch the movie? But the movie doesn't really fit into where it should either. But also kind of avoids the anime filler movie problem completely. Because it also involves the Mugen Train problem completely. Because it's a story you don't actually need, other than the manga recently bugging me with that. If you don't watch Zero, you'll be fine.
Well, the thing that bothered me about the movie adaptation versus the original chapter is that the fight between Miguel and Gojo happens off screen in the original chapter. So, I read the original first chapter, I read the series, I kept up, and then I had no idea who Miguel is, and when I'm looking up who he is, and it's like, oh, he's so strong and defeat Gojo as long as he has this black rope that he burnt it all up, and now he's just a normal sorcerer. And it's like, this whole gauntlet arc has just been
tedious. So let's use my Bleach example, because I love flashing back to Bleach, because anime getting worse has made Bleach retroactively better. Imagine if you're watching the 1,000-Year Blood War in Bleach, and then Captain flips things upside down shows up, but he was introduced in a movie. That's just bad storytelling right there. And My Hero did that recently too, where Mecha All Might happened because his pal from the first My Hero Academia movie built him a mecha suit. And I'm like, I don't like this Marvel Cinematic Universe notation in things. I do not like when you cannot enjoy something in a vacuum. That's why most of my highest rated movies are ones that the stories stand alone. Even Pokemon the first movie, if you've never watched an episode of Pokemon, you'll be fine. Dragon Ball Super Superhero, you don't know who any of these people are or why it matters. Broly, weirdly enough, actually worked as a standalone story, because it introduced Goku, Vegeta, and Broly, and then just talked about them, and then punched each other while yelling out "Go Go Vegeta." So, I don't actually like Jujutsu Kaisen referencing things that happened technically outside of Jujutsu Kaisen unless you download the mobile game or whatever they decide to do next. And I hear silence. Testing. This is unfortunate. Pauses like this, where the entire narrative starts because Karl disconnected, is not great for us not editing these episodes in any way, shape, or form. So as I wait for my co-host to return, I will finish giving my monologue about anime movies and continue along the topic valiantly with a heart of gold while I wait for my comrade to return. So, interestingly enough, after the Dragon Ball Super movies, we get into the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, which did particularly well. It was a non-canon affair. It wasn't particularly well written. There was zombies for no particular reason, but you got free trading cards at the height of Yu-Gi-Oh! So it was like, the movie didn't have to be good, but I also didn't expect it to be good. So I weirdly found that movie enjoyable because I knew it would be terrible. But I find it fascinating that it took like 7 movies down of things that were in Shonen Jump or Shonen Jump adjacent before we get to the first Studio Ghibli movie on the list, with Secret World of Arrietty, which, quite frankly, was a masterpiece. There is no shade I can throw at a high-quality Studio Ghibli movie. And I don't really have any follow-up thoughts on that. It was just, quite frankly, beautiful soundtrack, artwork, smooth animation. All in all, a spectacular movie to every sense of the word. And then continuing down, we get to the third Pokemon movie. And I think that's the last one that they bothered showing in theaters before they gave up. So at this point, each Pokemon movie, by literally grossing sales, cuts in half. And the third Pokemon movie, which tried to explain the unknown but didn't bother, other than Entei being cool, didn't really do a whole lot to work as a standalone movie. There's a few people who would probably claim it as their favorite Pokemon movie, but to be perfectly candid, skipping that one will not cause any deep problems. And following that, we get Ponyo, one of the few Studio Ghibli movies I have not seen. And with that, Karl has returned. I just gave... So what you missed was I went over the Secret World of Arrietty, the third Pokemon movie, and Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie The Pyramid of Light.
Secret World Arrietty?
Yes.
Never even heard of that one.
It's a Studio Ghibli masterpiece about a kid with a heart condition who shrinks down and meets fairies.
Oh. Yeah, okay. I mean, that... I'm surprised I haven't heard of it. But then again, Studio Ghibli has been, like, defunct for a long time because making anime masterpieces doesn't necessarily make money. However,
as I mentioned while you were reconnecting, I can't bash a Studio Ghibli movie because I'm not a sociopath.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are very high-quality artistic films that have a lot of merit.
Well, it's like
sad that
they're usually superbly well written, beautifully animated, excellently scored, superbly acted. But the other thing you missed was Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie The Pyramid of Light, where people went to get free trading cards.
Okay.
Which was the exact thing we complained about in anime movies, about a non-canon filler nonsense that advances none of the plot or the characters, that consisted of 2 card games. But here's my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie The Pyramid of Light trivia. So you got a card called a Blue Eye Shining Dragon.
Okay.
To play the Blue Eye Shining Dragon, you have to sacrifice a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon.
Okay.
Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon wasn't printed in North America.
Huh.
So you got an unplayable promo card that simply did not function. Which is pretty peak for like Yu-Gi-Oh! Movies. And I did see that one in the theaters, and I enjoyed it because I had no expectations of it whatsoever.
Fair enough.
So, with that, Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie The Pyramid of Light's probably best contribution is the abridged version.
Okay, so where are we on the list now?
Next we have Ponyo, another Studio Ghibli movie.
Okay, but is this this number 7 out of 10?
I don't even know if this list is top 10. It's just the list I found.
Just the list. Oh, see, Spy Family's not even going to be on there yet because it's too recent. And you
But
know
we
what
did
else
talk
will be
about
on
it
there?
first, though, so...
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean...
If you want to talk
Firstly,
more about it, take the stage. People do not count on us for following lists in list form. Or staying on topic.
Well, one of the other things that I have found about... A complaint that I have about anime movies, I kind of glazed over this in the What's New With Me, is when they're subbed in theaters. Because that's a barrier to entry for non-anime fans. They're just not going to go see a sub movie. That's, but then one of the other things, and it's kind of difficult to deal with, is the fact that anime movies are made for fans of the anime. But that's also kind of another barrier to entry for non-fans because they don't necessarily know who all the characters are. Spy Family often has this small amount of narration at the beginning of episodes, and so they included this bit of narration that explained who the main family is and what their goals are.
Yes, that perfect narrative technique of tell, don't show.
Well, they did a little bit of both because they showed Twilight on a mission where he he sounds terrible because he drugs a female noble in order to be able to get intel from an office that she has access to.
Oh, he's a spy.
And then he uses his polymorph ability because I don't know how he could make these disguises. He's better at disguises than Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
That's a surprisingly low bar. He has a center tooth. You just could tell it's him every time.
No. See, Tom Cruise manages to polymorph in people in impossible amounts of time, and Twilight just does it even better.
Yeah, Twilight's just competent.
Anyways,
which is what happens when you let your anime protagonists go through puberty.
But so when they're explaining that Twilight is a spy, it's because he successfully recovers this document from this office while escaping from the party dressed as the female noble. So in his polymorph disguise suit.
We have done our Spy Family episode. I just enjoy Spy Family. But what's funny is, to loop a bit back into when I was talking about Dragon Ball Super Broly, that's one of the few anime movies that bothered to naturally introduce the characters in it. And when we get a little further down the list... I think
that was a good one, too.
But any more closing thoughts you have on that? Because I believe I cut you off, and I also gave an uninterrupted 6-minute monologue while you reconnected.
No, I don't... It's difficult for an anime movie to naturally introduce the characters, and I do think Spy Family did a really straightforward job a good job in a straightforward way that matches the style of the show, and the Dragon Ball Broly movie also did a really good job of introducing characters in a way that made sense to viewers who aren't necessarily immersed in the series proper.
And then our next movie on the list cheated in a truly beautiful way. So the most recent One Piece movie, which gots to be 15th or 16th at this point of One Piece movies, One Piece film Red, was a musical.
Okay.
The main character / villain / hero's power was when they sing things that traps people in a dream world with music effects. The movie, about 90% of its runtime was set to epic music. Fun fact, if we learned anything from Cats, if you set something to epic music, no one cares who the characters are. It really didn't matter, because the only characters who mattered to the plot were Luffy, the new character Uta, and Shanks, and they explained their three dynamics. And then everyone else is just either a pirate or a marine or somebody, and they're just wacky background characters. And it's weirdly enough, there's so many of them, it doesn't really matter who they are, because the movie isn't about them. So, it was one of the better One Piece movies I've seen, but that's like saying it was one of the better bread sandwiches I've eaten.
bread sandwiches have been around forever and will continue to be around forever.
So before I continue down this list, is there any other anime movies you've seen, either in theaters or like independently, you think are worth mentioning? Because to be honest, I've seen 10 Naruto movies, 4 Bleach movies, 4 Inuyasha movies, and none of those. Well, the first Bleach movie went in an interesting direction, but almost none of those would be considered good movies. It was more, they were either on YTV or Netflix, and I was sufficiently bored.
Yeah, I mean, the only movie I would mention as an example of the non-canon nonsense, which we alluded to at the start of the episode, was the Naruto and the Ice Princess, or whatever it was called.
Smooth, perfect, 10 out of 10. Oh, it's so bad.
Which, yeah, I mean, there's lots of cool stuff and ideas in there that I wish they had just consulted with the author or someone so that those ideas could meld better with the series. Because, like, the chakra sealing chains never comes up again.
Right?
The rainbow chakra, complete and utter bullcrap.
Yep. So here's my biggest pet peeve of that Naruto movie. And this is going to be stupid, and it's going to be a journey. And I'm going to compress it down to 1 minute to get this out of my system. Naruto introduces, within the first plot arc, the idea that there's 5 elements, and you can combine 2 elements to make a special element with the character Haku. They explain that one of the special elements is ice, a special thing only Haku can do. They do an entire movie where all the villains have ice powers. That is the one thing they canonically knew they could not do at this point in the series. The people who wrote this Naruto movie had not watched a single episode of Naruto. Because literally, it was built around the premise of one of the 3 things at this point in the show you had stated were special and rare and wouldn't work. So I was so mad that the villains had ice powers, and you didn't make them related to the one ice villain with ice powers. They could have saved it. If they had consulted anyone who'd read the manga, be like, oh, for them to have ice powers, they'd have to be related to Haku and be like his clan that was persecuted or something. Boom! Fixed it! Easy! But no! And then, the technology inconsistency where they're like, yeah, they're in a movie theater upside down with shortwave radios. You would think that the fact they have shortwave radios would be more relevant in that series.
Well, especially seeing as, I guess shortwave radios make more sense to people who aren't immersed in the series, but it's and maybe they would make more sense than the sensory unit's ability to just telepathically send messages.
Well, it's one of those weird societal development questions. If you have people who can telepathically send messages, why would you invent this?
Well, exactly. So it's the writers of the movie didn't consult the writers of the show / manga, and then the writers of the show / manga didn't decide that anything in that movie was even worth carrying over to the main series.
And to follow that one up a bit, there was a train that had a kunai machine gun in it. And I'm just wait, you have gunpowder to shoot kunais. You heard my head tilt there in confusion. And the worst part of that Naruto movie is it's probably in the top 4.
Okay.
That Naruto movie, which I dunked on for so many reasons, was one of the better Naruto movies. So,
well, I did enjoy it as a standalone movie. It's just kind of like the Dragon Ball Z movies, where it's you can enjoy it, but you're not enjoying it for the same reason you're enjoying the main show.
Although, interestingly enough, so I recently watched a video on the Dragon Ball Z movies and why they're, quote, like that, unquote.
Okay.
So originally in Dragon Ball, they made the movies to be little recaps of the show. Okay. But what happened was when they did the Chaozu movie, they took the themes and the characters of a plot arc, but told an original story. The Dragon Ball Z movies are deliberately designed to take the themes and key moments of the show and compress them to a movie with different characters. So each Dragon Ball Z movie corresponded to a chunk of the show and acted as an alternative to it.
Huh.
So it's the idea that, the Turtles movie is an alternative to the Vegeta saga. The Cooler movie is an alternative to watching the Frieza saga. So the reason they're so similar is they were trying to hit those points. So in theory, you could watch all the Dragon Ball Z movies and get the gist of the series, but it would work as standalone movies.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like they missed the mark.
A little bit. But as a weird side effect, it made it that if you want to put optional characters in your Dragon Ball Z game, they got like a full list of like... It's like, if you're to take the ideas of the Dragon Ball Z movies, flesh them out more and blend them with the series, you can make a much more interesting Dragon Ball Z game, because then you don't have to follow the main plot. But like, here's something one of the Naruto movies did that blows my mind. So it's called Naruto The Last, and they want to do a slow-burn romance movie between Hinata and Naruto from someone who's never read a romance novel or interacted with someone of the opposite gender. Okay. So it was awkward, stilted, slow, and also Naruto goes into a weird mode he's never seen before and cuts the moon in half. And then they shoot the falling moon with a laser cannon. But the movie was trying to take itself completely seriously. And I hated that movie because it had no sense of joy to it whatsoever from a show that was doofy. Well, being doofy. Where, like, one of the better Naruto movies was literally they get caught in an illusion, and it's just Bizarro World where everyone has inverted personalities. I'm like, that's a great idea for a movie, because none of this matters anyway. You might as well lean into it.
Right.
Unlike the weird time-traveling one that adds the implication the series had time traveling. But none of the Naruto movies hit this list, and neither did they deserve to. But what's truly criminal is Spirited Away is like the second lowest thing on this list. My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission beat out Spirited Away.
That is sad.
And like Princess Mononoke's not even on here.
Studio Ghibli went bankrupt because they put their all into making excellently crafted pieces of art that targeted a niche audience that just didn't pay back.
However, I'm looking at the successful in US and Canada specifically list. Which, the thing after Spirited Away is Digimon the movie, which I need to give a brief explanation. Have you seen Digimon the movie?
I have not.
So Digimon had a lot of TV specials that were about the length of one of those, like, you know, a lot of the Dragon Ball Z movies were really not long enough to be a full-length movie.
Right.
So they took 3 unrelated Digimon movies, glued them together, added a new character in to try and bind them into one story. So it's like almost like an anthology that kind of meshed well.
Okay.
But also, the main villain broke into the internet was going to nuke Colorado. Specifically. Okay. And they defeated him with spam email. Digimon the movie...
With spam email.
Part of what made it amazing is it's completely canon because it takes place after the series, between the 2 series. So it's 100% canon, is ridiculous, had some of the best performances of the characters, but kind of shot itself in the foot. Because the middle chunk was so much better than the first chunk and the last chunk. That's like, guys, if you had remade that middle chunk into a full-length movie, it would have been a truly amazing movie. And then years later, they like did a season of like called Digimon Tribe, where it was like 6 movie-only things like Gundam Seed style, but was with new characters and new timeline and this and that, which was just substantially higher quality than Digimon the first movie. But the first movie, the villain was trying to nuke Colorado as early 2000s metal bands played in the background. It was amazing. So I pulled up the internet highest grossing worldwide list because it's drastically different.
Okay.
So somehow Mugen Train is in first worldwide.
Mugen
Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
Oh yeah, okay.
But then it's Spirited Away. And it's like Spirited Away, Your Name, The Boy and the Heron. I'm like, those are things that should be this high up, yes.
Yeah, because Studio Ghibli, like I say, they make masterpieces.
Yeah. And then, like, there's just some things that are funny to make it in there where it's like, Detective Conan. And I'm like, yeah, that is a series that just did not catch on in North America. Yokai watched the movie. Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time.
Yeah, the incredibly confusing conclusion to Neon Genesis.
So, Neon Genesis' third movie had the universe's most impossible task. It had to summarize the second half and ending of Neon Genesis, and be a reboot that's canonically a sequel that brings the franchise to a satisfying conclusion. It had a satisfying conclusion. Karl, you don't understand. That is the most impossible task anyone's ever been given. Imagine if I handed you, I don't know, just random pages of Siren, and mixed them up randomly with random pages of Thousand Year Blood War. And I said, now end this satisfyingly. You're like, where do I even start? What is satisfying? This is a series that famously ran out of budget for its finale and then did a different finale where a character murdered all of mankind, I guess, and then choked out his love interest on a beach. Yeah, give it a happy ending. What? So, kudos. They ended it. It's over. It's done. They actually did the task. Neon Genesis is over, and I can actually say with confidence it was a good series with a satisfying conclusion. That should have been impossible.
Should have been impossible.
So, like, just straight up kudos. But other than, like, Yokai Watch and Detective Conan movies, this list doesn't have a ton of things that weren't on the other one, just the order's pretty substantially different, and there's, like, a Doraemon movie in there for good measure.
Yeah, okay. Another anime that didn't take off in North America. Although that one's a bit old. Because there's like... I think Doraemon is older than Dr. Slump.
Yeah, but this Doraemon movie was 2014, so it was like a reboot kind of movie.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
And it was the highest grossing film in Doraemon's history. Which, to be fair, most people don't know what Doraemon is, but it gets Easter egged in video games all the time. And I'm like, yeah...
I guess we can't.
This list is effectively what we'd expect it to be. Like, the main difference between international is Ghibli's where it should be. But part of it is...
I don't understand if, like Ghibli, like I say, they've made super high quality masterpieces, but like...
We didn't air them in theaters when they came out for the first thing.
Ah, okay.
We just straight up. Princess Mononoke never was released in theaters in North America.
I was kind of wondering if breaking into the North American market is what made Studio Ghibli go under, because, like, their films are held in such high regard for a good reason, and yet they went bankrupt.
Yeah, but a lot of people go bankrupt. Going bankrupt doesn't mean what it used to. It usually means someone needed to get out of a tax scandal and they go bankrupt and end up with more assets. And, like, looking at the list, too, like, the international list and then the in Japan list are much more similar. And the North American list was literally just weirdly dominated by Pokémon. Because that is all we knew.
Yeah, that's true.
But moving on from that, as we try and wrap up our episode. So, to just give a bit of a summary, most animes have non-canon filler movies that are roughly the length of 3 episodes that are usually somewhere in the mediocre to adequate range. Like, I really liked the third Inuyasha movie, which talked a bit more about Inuyasha's dad, and I have no idea if that was canon enough to matter or not, but I enjoyed that movie. And I find that if you end your anime with a movie, the movie will be a lot stronger. Also, Gundam has not topped any of these lists, which is frankly absurd to me. I'm like, wait, so Hathaway's Flash just didn't even, like, ping anywhere?
Well, that's because Hathaway's Flash got nothing from being Gundam. It might as well just been its own animated movie about children in war.
It was awesome, though. Like, it's funny that Gundam has put out so many movies and none of them even, like, hit a list. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's because Gundam makes all its money in model kits. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, Char's Counterattack was just an hour and 45-minute model commercial that happened to reflect on the tragedy of war. Which is just funny to me.
I'm so curious about the Gundam Seed Destiny movie, or the new Gundam Seed movie, but I don't want to ask my girlfriend to go with me to see it in theaters because it's subbed, not dubbed.
Oh, man. So, you know what broke me? So the sub we listened to of Gundam Seed is not the one that streaming places, and the voices are just not the ones I watched it the first time with. And I don't know why, but it bugs me so much I can't do it.
That's funny.
And with that, let's move into our random questions of the day. So, has anyone mailed you in or pigeon mailed you any random questions? Because they're allowed to send them to you.
Well, I mean, we haven't posted my email address or anything on our socials or whatever, so I don't.
No, I'm talking messenger pigeon, going to every redacted pizza in North America, hoping to spot you, looking at their tattoo and checking citizens in the street.
Well, I mean, good news on that. My girlfriend really likes the mustache, so I shaved the rest of my face, and the mustache is coming back in. So, in the next couple weeks here, mustache will be full enough that I'll match your Karl tattoo. If you are looking for me, you can check your shoulder or wherever you have.
So on that note, it's not an icebreaker question,
chest,
but I do have a random question for you. So I'm going to get a haircut this week because I need one. I kind of want to dye my hair a fun color. What color should I pick?
A fun color.
Because I'm an art student. I'm in the humanities and social sciences. I can look stupid.
Well, blue and green, I would say are probably out. They fade horribly. I mean, maybe if you get it professionally done, but blue and green are terrible after they start to fade. I mean, I like pink, but I would say probably like purple.
Interesting.
I think purple it'll look very shocking when you see it the first time, and I think it'll fade better than most other colors. Interesting.
That is strongly under advisement. And here's our random question, because that stalled exactly for enough time for me to find it. All right. Your boss has ripped the back of his or their pants and has asked you to create a distraction so they can sneak into their office. How do you create the distraction?
That's...
Should I answer this one first while you hum and haw about it? So,
no, I'm not answering you,
it's kind of rigged. Because I mostly work remote, I would just turn off the meeting chat.
Yeah, okay, I mean, that's...
But if it's a hypothetical of, like, I'm also in a pizzarilla and it's a pizzarilla manager, then the only effective thing for me to do is to say, guys, gather around, who wants to go get donuts? And I say it loudly to get everyone around. And then I, like, count out the money slowly for our donut person, and that should buy enough time.
You know, honestly, I would not... I wouldn't make a distraction. I would just tell people to get out of the way. Jeff's got to get to his office because he ripped his pants. Just straight up.
You would just use honesty.
And I would laugh while I was doing it. Yeah, and I would laugh while I was doing it because he would be, like, embarrassed and stuff trying to run to the office. And like, nobody look here, he ripped his pants. Everybody just keep on doing what you're doing.
I enjoy the part where I, like, throw a water bottle on a server and just shut down the internet so the Zoom call ends. And this next one is a good one. If you could create an entirely new flavor of tea out of a vibe, situation, or environment, what would it be? For example, a tea that tastes like sunset viewed from a mountaintop.
A tea that had a vibe?
Yeah, so you choose a physical experience and you've somehow turned it into a tea flavor.
And what physical experience would I want to turn into a tea flavor?
Yeah, so for example, my pick would be, I want a tea that tastes like top decking the correct card at the end of a match.
Oh.
And also for my enemies, sorry, I need a second tea first. For my enemies, people I'm like serving a drink to, but I don't like, I want the tea to taste like being picked second for best man at a wedding because someone else was busy that was a clear first pick. So it's like, yay, this tastes good, but it's also weirdly bitter and disappointing.
Just as a random side tangent. obviously, if you've been following our podcast for long enough, I like to play Magic, and I was playing a game of Magic with my deck that I had mentioned a couple episodes ago, and I played a card that filtered for artifacts. It's like, look at the top 4 cards of your library, pick an artifact, put it into your hand.
You got 50 seconds.
And when I looked at the top 4 cards of my library, the card that was on top of my deck was not an artifact, and probably would have won me the game. But I had to filter it away because I was looking for artifact.
So that's the opposite of how that first tea would taste.
Definitely the opposite. Oh, filter out my win condition. Dang it. But no.
Knowing you'd make a tea that tastes like punching your friend with an inflatable glove in a bouncy castle until he falls over repeatedly.
No. I think this, probably would actually just be a normal tea, but like, I really enjoy a nice warm shower, with like fruity, herbaceous, like shampoo.
It's funny because
I'd want to.
With the structuring of the question, that's a delicious tea. In reality, you put soap in someone's tea. But in this context, you are correct. Fresh shower flavor would actually be really good as a tea. And with that...
It doesn't sound appealing.
It doesn't, but you're right. Like, in the context of this question, you are correct. And with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Feel free to submit your random questions for a chance to win things. Possibly free ebooks, because I have those. And,
Ooh.
I don't know, go have some tea, and if you don't like tea, that's fine. Drink it anyway.
Well, I mean, I was going to say self-care. Tea is good for meditation if you want to do that kind of stuff, or tea is good for just general drinking if you don't like to meditate, or if you don't like tea or meditating, then
And to follow that up, if you'd like us to do an episode where me and Karl just guide you through a guided meditation with our soothing voices, send your emails to the listed email address for Deep Space and Dragons. I will happily have me and Karl read a guided meditation for an hour.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what kind of meditation you'd be guided through, but
I just
probably
enjoy
be
the
like
part
the
where
Ryan
it's
George
like,
meditation.
think of things that calm you, like an Espeon and an Umbreon in a doubles battle. Find your spiritual center, like the opposite of when someone tells you can rotate a block in the stage editor in Smash Bros.
That guy doesn't exist anymore.
And with that, I don't know. Enjoy your lives?
Maybe drink some tea. It might help you enjoy your life more.
Maybe. Bye.
Bye.
Buy my book!